Right, let's get into the election conversation now. This week, the Independent Electoral Commission declared its state of readiness during the institution's official launch of the National Results Operations Centre, The Rock in Tshwane, which is the national hub for election-related activities, including monitoring and announcements of results. The IEC on Wednesday said the Commission has managed to put in place all measures necessary to deliver on elections despite the constraints of time and circumstances imposed by COVID-19. IEC Chief Electoral Officer Mamabolo talks to us ahead of the country's designated day for the 2021 local government elections on Monday, the date, the 1st of November. Can't believe it's here. Good morning to you.
Yes, the moment has arrived, an opportunity we now have to reconstitute municipal councils by voting to determine who the new councillors would be, or rather, who councillors would be. So it's an exciting moment for the country. It's an exciting moment for our democracy when we all citizens registered have an opportunity to participate in refreshing the mandate, so to speak, of all municipal councils in the country.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're starting with the special votes that's happening this weekend. So people have had to apply for that. That process is already obviously closed. Nobody can apply for a special vote now, I imagine, and it's all systems go for that. Talk us through the special votes.
Yes, indeed. In terms of the election timetable, the applications for special votes closed on the 4th of October. At a point of closing, 1.1 million people had applied successfully. So 507,000 of them will be voting at home. In other words, persons who are infirm or in special circumstances will be visited over the 2 days at home between 8 and 5. And then there's an additional 611,000 persons who are going to be voting at the voting stations between 8 and 5 on both Saturday and Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Which is something that people need to know when these special votes take place. Is there any information we need to speak about? I mean, this is obviously for people that are unable to get to different stations for various reasons. Perhaps you can tell us who qualified for these special votes and how it works. Does an IEC official go to their house or wherever they are to cast these votes? Perhaps tell us more about that.
The special votes, the home visits in particular, you apply on a basis that you are infirm or in some special circumstances that render it impossible for you to travel to the voting station, such as pregnancy and so on. 2 officials of the IEC will visit you. We want to encourage party agents to tag along. And when they get your home, you'll be given the 2 or the necessary number of ballot papers. You'll mark those ballots in secret, put them in an envelope that is not marked. And that envelope, which is not marked, will be placed into a bigger envelope wherein your details will be put. And a special bag will be used to deposit those ballots. Back at the stations, at the voting station, they'll be reconciled to the voters' roll as well as the list of approved special voters.
Right, so that is taking place tomorrow and Sunday, correct? And then polls open. Let's talk about timing for Monday. So the different voting, how many stations we've got around the country, the times that they're going to be operating, and other issues related to that.
We're opening at 7. And we'll stay in operation until 9 p.m., at which point we will close. Obviously, the tradition is that if there are people on the queue at 9, still on the day, we will assist those people until we complete. Whereafter, the counting process will commence, and we hope to finish counting by midnight, early hours of the morning, and start the capturing process. We do think that we should be in a position to give a a result by Thursday next week. The Commission should be, barring one or two things, should be in a position to declare the results of the election.
Yeah, so that'll be Thursday next week. So opening 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock in the evening. And South Africans really just to ensure that they take their ID with. I mean, more than that, ID and a good attitude with a mask. I suppose that's what you need to do.
We need people to be alive to the social distancing requirements on the queues, masking, accept that they need to be sanitized upon entry and exit at the voting station. So those are critical. And we also want to encourage people to bring along a pen. We will provide pens. We have procured pens. But in order to avoid the use of pens, we encourage people, voters, to bring their own pens along.
All right. Any special color? I mean, does it matter if we bring a blue or a black pen along? I mean, I'm really just getting into nitty-gritties here. Does it matter?
It doesn't really matter.
When we talk about making a mark on the ballot paper, because a lot of times people sort of wonder, you know, if I make a mistake, what do I do? Can I ask for another ballot paper? Or if what constitutes a spoiled ballot? And do I need to make an actual X through the name, or is it just a tick? Or what can we do? I mean, these are little things that perhaps we don't talk about enough for people going in to vote.
Historically, people have become accustomed to making a cross, which is fine. But any other mark that identifies the voter's choice within that block suffices. The important thing is that that mark which you make, whichever configuration of the mark is, must not extend beyond the block, because then the choice of the voter does not become clear. In other words, it must not encroach onto the block of other parties, either on top or at the bottom. It has to be confined to that block for the party which you are voting for.
A spoiled ballot, what would constitute a spoiled ballot? And if I make a mistake on the paper, can I get another sheet of paper? And perhaps, you know, if I make more than one mistake, will you assist me in giving me another ballot paper?
A spoiled ballot is one wherein there are several marks for different political parties, as an example. Or a mark that extends and encroaches into 3 or 4 parties, 2 or 3 parties. So you're making a mark in one box, but your mark extends beyond that box into one above and one below. That clearly it's a spoiled vote, because counters would not be able to discern your true choice that you are making.
Okay.
Will you be given a ballot? Yes, indeed. You'll be. If you make a mistake on that ballot, before you deposit that ballot into the ballot box, you can ask the presiding officer to cancel that ballot and reissue you a ballot. And that can happen 2 times. Okay.
So you got the opportunity, if you've made a mistake, to get another ballot just in case you want to fill it in. So again, just the nitty-gritty that in some areas you'll get 2 ballot papers, other areas you'll get 3 ballot papers, because some people might think, what's going on here? Perhaps you want to just talk to us about that again.
Indeed, in the 8 metros in the country, ballots would be 2. It's 1 for the party proportional representation ballot and 1 for the ward. So in the 8 metros, it's 2 ballots. Then when you go to district councils or municipalities that are within a district council, you get those 2 ballots, the ward ballot, the PR ballot for the local municipality. Additionally, in those areas, you'll get the 3rd ballot, the PR for the district council. So you'll get 3 ballots in those areas.
So just a question coming from a viewer. So quite an important question coming in here. It's a viewer of ours. His name is Michael Atkins, pointing out a mistake here. He's saying, I'm not sure whether anyone has picked this up, but it's an individual's name that is appearing on the candidate list in Tshwane on behalf of 3 different parties. His name is Jonas Madise Motsomai, and it's saying Abantu Batu Congress, Patriotic Alliance, and the People's Voice. It is the same candidate for 3 different parties. Is this possible?
Yeah, it is possible. It's not an error. What we do, we have to notify parties when candidates are on multiple lists, and that happens quite a bit. People do double dip. We notify parties about that. It's part of the election timetable process. And then parties have an election to make, whether to remove that candidate or to keep them on the ballot and serve on multiple party lists. But it does happen. Our duty as the Electoral Commission is to point that out to political parties concerned and give them the opportunity to make an election, whether they retain those people, those candidates, or they remove them. In this circumstance, I'll imagine that they elected not to remove them.
Goodness me. All right. So 3 parties, same person. Very, very interesting. I had no idea something like that could happen. Just finally, as I wrap this up, obviously safety measures are of vital importance during all elections, but particularly as we move into these elections. Police Minister Becky Cele said there will not only be police on the ground, we've also heard from the President now that the SANDF 10,000 members will be strategically deployed, even though the military won't necessarily be at voting stations. So are you satisfied with security that is in place?
Yes, we've been working quite closely with the security agencies. We've been part of the planning process, and the risk assessment of all voting stations has happened. And we hope that the plans that have been outlined will hold, and that we're going to have a very peaceful election day over the next 2 days.
All right, fantastic. Oh, one last question. Sorry, these are just coming in as I'm interviewing you. Philip asking me, saying, are COVID-19 positive voters going to cast special votes, or are they expected to vote at polling stations? Will they not be endangering other voters? Is this a consideration? I mean, if you do have COVID, how do you vote?
Well, remember, we've said there's a anti-COVID protocol for voting stations where people must wear masks, you must sanitize, etc., etc. Our staff will be in PPE and so on. So when you have COVID, you don't lose your right to vote. But the cumulative effect of the measures that we've put in place will insulate you infecting other people, which is why it's important that your mask covers your nose and mouth, and you spend as little time as possible at the station. When you are in, you get your ballots, you mark them, you get sanitized, you leave. So the measures in themselves will ensure that there is no cross-transmission, even for those people who may be infected.
All right. IEC Chief, Mamabolo, thanks very, very much for joining us here on the program, talking to us about some activities that will unfold during, firstly, the special voting that will be starting tomorrow and Sunday, but you've already had to register for that, so it's nothing that you can do now. And then, of course, on the 1st of November, that is where we all go out and cast our votes. So you heard, even if you do have COVID, doesn't mean you can't vote, but it just means that protocols must be seen to very, very strictly when you go into that voting session. So be aware that somebody around you may have COVID that's going to vote, but you just got to keep that mask on, sanitize, and keep your distance. That's what the advice is from the IEC.